to The Countdown. I'm your Countdown host, MJ Book, back for another episode here in the world of The Countdown. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, like I try to say, hope everybody's doing well out there, taking care of themselves, their loved ones, and that complete stranger out there. Let's get rid of this COVID, get those shots, get those boosters. Let's eradicate this thing so the word COVID never has to leave our lips ever again. But I have a countdown here for you, but do want to say that 2021 is coming rapidly to an end. And if you're a longtime listener or viewer of the show, you know that I do my best and worst of 2021, which is me just mentioning 10 things that were good to me in the year 2020. And of course, with the worst, 10 things that were not so good that happened during the year. I am working on those episodes. I will hope to do those episodes within the next couple of weeks. Just wrapping those up, nearly done with both lists. Also be hopefully recording an episode in about a week, and I should have a guest on that one. So definitely look out for that one. But this one, it's just me, no guests. But this one does deal with a topic that has been definitely mentioned on this show numerous times. Now, superhero movies are very popular. Obviously, they make a lot of money. I know there are people out there that feel there's too many of these things and they need to stop. Rob, I know you're one of them. And I can understand the point of view, definitely. But there are superhero movies that people don't think about right away. When you think of a superhero movie, people will rattle off Avenger movies. People will rattle off The Dark Knight, Deadpool, Logan. These are the kind of movies that people are going to just rattle off at the top of their tongue, just right away, top of the brain. But there are those superhero movies that maybe you might not say right away, and it takes a bit to get to them. That's what this list is. This is my fave other superhero movies. Now, these are characters that, for the most part, you probably know a good portion of these characters, but they haven't had a movie maybe in a while, or maybe they haven't had anything successful in a while. Maybe you haven't seen this character in a while, or maybe you have, but they're a side character and not the main character, or they were the main character in a movie that was maybe some time ago, and maybe it just didn't do that well. But either way, these are the other superheroes that people don't think about. No Captain Americas, no Batman, no Superman. We're dealing with different heroes. Now, as far as honorable mentions, I don't exactly have that many honorable mentions, but I do have a couple that I will throw in there. One is Hancock. I love the movie Hancock with Will Smith. Supposedly they're going to be doing a sequel here. I'll be there definitely to watch that. That should be good. Condor Man. That name has been mentioned a few times on this show. I know it's a bad movie, but it's a guilty pleasure. I like that movie. And Masters of the Universe. At first, I hated that movie, but over the years, for some odd reason, there's parts of it that have grown on me. I like Frank Langella as Skeletor. He's the best part of that entire movie. He had a ball doing that role, you could tell. So those are my honorable mentions. That's it. Just those. So without further ado, and here we go. Let's get started with the countdown. This is the 10-spot countdown. And so let's just hit this right away with number 10. Number 10 is a movie from 2003. This movie has been mentioned before on the countdown, and I know one person who is a frequent guest on this show who likes this movie. I believe that person is you, Eric, and that is The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, starring my homie, my boy, the man, Sir Sean Connery. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen takes place in this Victorian age type of Earth, where this group of famous fantasy characters and adventure characters and science fiction characters and monsters and things of that nature, all in one world. All the literary greats, I guess you could say, as far as characters, all inhabiting this one little world. It's directed by Stephen Norrington. Writers are Alan Moore. For comic book fans, you know that name. Kevin O'Neill, another name. If you're a comic book fan, you know that one. James Robinson did the screenplay. Stars Sean Connery, as I said already. Stuart Townsend, for you vampire fans, you know who that is. Peter Wilson, name you don't see that much anymore, but if you watch the USA Network's La Femme Nikita show, definitely a name you recognize. Not a lot of other people in this movie you would actually know by their names, but there are several you would definitely recognize by their face. But as far as literary characters, you have Alan Quatermain, Dorian Gray, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Mina Harker, Captain Nemo, M. And when I say M, well, I'll let you figure it out. Tom Sawyer. I mean, these are literary names that you definitely know. And they're all this, think of it as kind of a weird version of the Avengers. All these literary characters, the Invisible Man, all these characters that you've read about in their own little books are this weird group of superheroes. It's an unusual movie, but damn it, I love this film. It's definitely one of those guilty pleasures. The movie didn't do the best at all, which is a shame, because had it done better, we would have gotten more sequels. But Sean Connery probably didn't speak a whole lot about this movie, but I happen to have loved this movie. He kicked ass in it. The movie was awesome. Special effects were great. Great story. If you've read the comic, some things happen. That comic is a little darker than the movie. That's all I'll say. There's some things that happened in that comic that are just wow. That's all I'll say. If you haven't read it, that's fine. I'm just telling you, there are some things that happened. But number 10, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Number 9. Number 9 is definitely a movie probably most people never watched. And if you look at the trailer and you look at it, you're going, what the fuck is this? But I like it. It's from 1996, so that should tell you the kind of action that's in it. It's directed by Simon Windsor. Stars Billy Zane, Christy Swanson, Treat Williams, James Remar, and an early Catherine Zeta-Jones before she really made it into the world of acting, before she really got attention, before she was going under laser beams. The Phantom. Now, The Phantom is based off of an old radio show, old comic. The Phantom, or the Ghost Who Walks, is a character who is a descendant from his ancestor, got trapped on an island after his ship was invaded by the pirates of the Singh Brotherhood, and he's kind of having this eternal battle with these same pirates. Now, everybody calls him the Ghost Who Walks because everybody just assumes it's the same guy. The Phantom's the same person, when really it's just descendants handed down. The first one handed it down to their son, and then to their son, and then to their son, and then to their daughter, and then to their, just on and on and on and on and on, till we get to Billy Zane's Phantom, who's Kit Walker. Now, this movie takes place, and I believe it's like 50, maybe 30, maybe it's like 30s or 50s, 1930s or 50s. So that's the kind of world you're dealing with. And these pirates, you have this, or again, the pirates are at war with Phantom, and you have this businessman who's played by Treat Williams. I'm trying to remember his name. Xander Drax. Yeah, great name. Yeah. Xander Drax, who is after these two skulls, these two mythical skulls that supposedly harbor tremendous power. And Phantom's trying to stop them. And We learn a little bit about his past. That's where Christy Swanson comes in. Beautiful woman. And of course, Catherine Zeta-Jones, beautiful woman. And I think what people would have a problem with in this movie is the Phantom's outfit. And it's purple. And I can understand people looking at it and just going, what on earth is that? I get it. I really do. Sci-Fi, many years later after this, made a movie that was supposed to launch a TV show that didn't work out. They completely changed the outfit, which I get it. You needed to, but it was kind of ugly. What they did to it was kind of ugly. I didn't like what they did with it. So I'm not a big fan of that TV movie. I prefer this, despite the purple outfit. But the Phantom, Billy Zane, the name may not seem familiar, but he was in Titanic. He was the rich guy that you hated that was with Rose. That's Billy Zane. Billy, I think that they screwed up a future role for Billy, because Billy would have been a great Lex Luthor. He already had the look. And I think they screwed it up. I thought there was a time that he would have played a perfect Lex Luthor. Instead, we got what we got in Batman vs. Superman. We got Lex Riddler. But the Phantom, like I said, if you can get past the fact that it is a very stereotypical 90s type of movie, and definitely if you can get past that outfit, I actually enjoyed this movie. I remember when this movie came out in theaters. I worked at a movie theater at the time. The Phantom, what he wears is these skull rings. I still have mine from this movie. These skull rings, I've had them for 25 years, and I still own them, and they still can fit on my fingers. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I wear them all the time. So if you know me and you've seen me wearing a skull ring, that's what it was, the Phantom. So that is number 9, The Phantom from 1996. Number 8. This is an oldie, a little bit. This takes us back to the 80s, 1984 to be exact, in one of the silliest, stupidest movies probably ever made. But damn it, it's so good, and a lot of people like this movie. It's directed by Michael Hertz and Lloyd Kaufman. If you already know those names, you should already know what this movie is. There is no reason to say the stars of this because you've never heard of any of them. It is Toxic Avenger. That's right, the Toxic Avenger. Tromaville. Troma movies. If you're familiar with shitty 80s movies, then you've watched a Tromaville movie. Class of Nukem High, for example. Kabuki, I think it was Kabuki Cop or something like that. I mean, just stupid movies that had no business being made. Most of them I despise and thought are just shit. Then came the Toxic Avenger, which it's about this boy named Melvin Junko. I mean, just obviously, it was so obvious what was going to happen to him with the name Junko. I mean, but he's this boy who works in this health spa and he's picked on by everybody. And they trick him and one of the hotties tricks him into thinking that she's interested. And they torment him and they make him wear a tutu, and he runs out and he jumps out. He falls through a window and lands in toxic waste, which turns him into a creature of superhuman size and strength. And he's now a superhero. But unlike so many superheroes who just bust the bad guy so they go to jail, he kills them. He just kills them. And he kills them in some grotesque ways. Now, the special effects in this movie are laughably bad. They are terrible. They are just god awful. But it adds to you. It's one of these movies you can't take it seriously because of the makers of the movie. It's so laughably bad that you can't take it seriously. And that's ultimately why this movie didn't make it on my guilty pleasures, because it's obviously a bad movie. That's the point. It's a bad movie. but they're not trying to make an Oscar film here. It's clearly shit, and it's good deliberate shit. And there was a lot of sequels spawned off with this, including an animated series on Fox. How they it was kind of ridiculous watching this on Fox when Toxic kills people. I mean, he's crushing people. He kills people. So it was kind of weird seeing a cartoon show. It was kind of like when they made a cartoon show about Rambo. It's like he kills people. Why are we making a whatever? So it was kind of weird in those aspects. There's been a lot of rumors that Toxic is being remade. The last rumor I heard was having Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Not as Toxic, but just somehow he's in it. Don't know how, don't know why. I don't know. But that was a few years ago. It's been a while since I've heard any news about that movie being made. I haven't heard anything about it being canceled, but I ain't heard anything about it still going on good either. So we'll have to see where that goes. But 1984, The Toxic Avenger. Such a shitty movie, but damn it, I love it. Number 7. Number 7 is actually a movie that was very successful. It was very successful, but it's not something anybody thinks about because there was not another movie. Now, recently I have heard that this is getting a TV show, and please don't take this the wrong way, but they're going the route of, okay, we're going to change the sex and change the race. So that's what it's one of those type of deals. And I just don't like that stuff. I don't want to see things like that. I don't need to see Black Panther all of a sudden become a Mexican or, I just don't like the switching of things. Why do we have to do it? Wonder Woman doesn't need to be Wonder Man. We don't, James Bond, we don't need an American female Bond or American male Bond. British male white Bond. Cool. Done. But that's the rumor with this movie. And this was in 1991. And it is The Rocketeer. The Rocketeer. Directed by Joe Johnstone, starring Bill Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, Alan Arkin. Paul Sorvino's in this. Terry O'Quinn is in the movie. Timothy Dalton is in the movie. This takes place in classic kind of Hollywood. It's a classic Hollywood movie. And this young pilot kind of finds this prototype jetpack, which makes him fly through the air. And he has this helmet, which helps him steer, which basically masks him. And he becomes the Rocketeer. Now, it's based off a graphic novel by David Stevens. Character's been around for quite a while. Very old character. Just never got a lot of plug. This was the first time I'd ever heard of the Rocketeer. But this was a very enjoyable movie. Very enjoyable. And it actually did decent. It did decent in the box office. So I was actually expecting a sequel. I thought they were going to make a sequel to this, but it just never happened. And that's a damn shame because, again, this was a very, very good movie. The effects are not that bad. I think they still hold up. I'm not going to let you know about the plots too deeply in this one, because if you're going to watch it, I want you to, there's got some surprises in it, but it's dealing around World War II. And if you've watched movies and shows, you kind of have an idea who villains are going to be during those times. And usually they're, villains that came from, Germany, Nazis. Nazis are in the movie. That's any kind of a movie that took place in a time back then when they were going for a bad guy. They usually got connected with Nazis. So there are Nazis all over the place. And this actually has historical characters in it. Terry O'Quinn plays Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire who invented this jetpack. And Terry O'Quinn did a great job playing Howard Hughes, by the way. He did a great job. Jennifer O'Connelly's in this. Of course, she plays Billy Campbell, who's the Rocketeer, Cliff. She plays his girlfriend, by the way, Jennifer Connelly. beautiful woman. And a lot of things ensue. Alan Arkin plays PV, who's kind of this mechanic, good friend of Cliff, kind of a engineer type of a person who kind of makes the rocket pack work, helps design the helmet of the Rocketeer. Timothy Dalton plays Neville Sinclair, who's an actor. Jenny, Jennifer Connelly's character. Yes, they named her Jenny. That was hard for them to figure out, I think. They're both actors in Hollywood, so that's where Hollywood comes into play in this movie a lot. Like I said, this is a very good movie. It's definitely cheesy, but of the movies I've mentioned, it's the most kid-friendly. This is the most kid-friendly. I would not advise kids to watch The Toxic Avenger, even though it's bad violence. It's violent. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I don't see a real problem with it, but there are a couple of moments here and there that maybe parents would not like their kids to see, whatever. Phantom, I think that's pretty kid-friendly. You can have your kids watch that. But Rocketeer is extremely kid-friendly. So this is probably one of the more successful movies on this list. Not the most, but one of. So I would definitely recommend The Rocketeer. This is a movie that didn't get a good break. As I said, supposedly it's being remade. I think is a show on ABC. I'm probably wrong about the network, but I heard this was going to be they were making it a black woman. I think that's what I heard. Don't know if that's still happening. Could change. Who knows? You never know with these shows progressively, that it could change, or it could just get canceled and just never happen. But that's the last I heard, and that was maybe 5 months ago. So who knows? Will I watch it? I don't know. We'll see. It wouldn't shock me if I don't, but who knows? If it looks good to me, I will watch it. But it's got to look good. So we'll find out what happens. But number 7, The Rocketeer. Oh boy. Okay. Number 6. Now this movie is shit, and the effects are bad. The makeup is bad. It's violent, so I wouldn't recommend this one for kids. From 1991, so that should already tell you. Directors are Stephen Wang, and this is the director's name. You can look it up. Screaming Mad George. That should already tell you what kind of a movie we're dealing with here. It's based off of a Japanese anime. Now, I don't like animes. I think they're shit, but they're very popular. I just am not a big fan. This is based off an anime, so I'm sure anime fans are not a fan of this movie. It is The Guyver. The Guyver is the story of a young man who wants to be a martial artist. He's in martial arts class, but he's uncoordinated. He's not the best. He's got the hots for an Asian woman who's, I think it's her father. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen this, but I believe it's like her father or her grandfather, who's a scientist working for the Cronus Corporation. And Cronus is wanting the Guyver units, these units that produce this body armor. And it wittingly, her grandfather escapes with it and is chased by zoonoids. You have to watch it to understand. But they're these half human, half monster type deals. And he hides this Guyver unit, and it finds our main character. I'm trying to explain this movie. It's ridiculous. By the way, the main character's name is Sean Barker. He finds it, and one night he's getting accosted by some gang thugs, and it falls out of his backpack. It's like right below him. He's like lying on his stomach. Somebody kicks him, and his face smashes into it, and it bonds with him, and now he's the Guyver. Guyver is this super martial artist. He's super strong, super athletic. He's got these blades on his arm, these huge blades. That's the plot. He's now the Guyver. The Zoonoids want it. The Cronus Corporation wants it. And he's trying to now live life as this Guyver. And it's as far as people who are in this that you may know, I mean, Sean Barker is played by an actor by the name of Jack Armstrong. You've probably never heard of him. The lady that he's got the hots for is Vivian Wu. You might know the name. I would believe you'd seen the face before. Jimmy Walker's. Jimmy Walker, yes, that Jimmy Walker, Dynamite from Good Times is in this movie. There's some character actors you've probably seen before, like Michael Berryman. He plays Lisker. The name doesn't mean anything, but you see his face, I guarantee you've seen him in some shitty movie. And he's probably was the bad guy in it because that was all he ever did. The biggest star in this movie is a guy who was in a semi-big movie called, let me look it up, Star Wars. He also voiced a comic book character named the Joker. That's right. Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, is in this movie. So that's why I watched it, because I saw Mark Hamill was in it. And little behold, I ended up liking the movie enough that I own it on DVD. So this did have a sequel. Not as good. It was pretty bad. Different actors, different crew. It was just different. It was actually worse in some respects, but I can surprisingly still watch it. I just don't own it. But that's the Guyver. It's you can watch the Japanese anime. I believe the episodes are actually on YouTube. So, in fact, I know they're on YouTube because I remember seeing them just about a month or so ago. So that's the Guyver. It is bad. It's shit. I acknowledge it. There's no defense of it. But I like it. This almost made it on my list of guilty pleasures. It's bad. Don't care. I like it. The Guyver, number 6. Oh boy, we're headed to the top half here. Number 5. This is actually, I think, a successful movie. It had a sequel. The character we've seen in some animated movies here and there. He hasn't had his own movie in quite a while. And by quite a while, I mean since 1989, which I like that movie. But the one that most people think of is the one that was in 1982. And that was directed by Wes Craven, stars Louis Jordan and Andrea. I always screw up this name. Sorry about this. You know how I am with names. Adriana Barbaro. I probably said the name horribly wrong. You know her. She's the chick with yeah. Ray Wise. It's Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing. I love this character. And the first time I knew that there was a Swamp Thing was the movie The Return of Swamp Thing. And I thought, okay, this is some shit, but I like this movie. And then after seeing that, I watched the original, this one, and right around that time, the USA Network had a TV show called Swamp Thing, which I loved that show. That show was awesome. Just recently, there was Swamp Thing Returned, and I have heard a lot of bad things about that show. I love Swamp Thing, and I have not watched that show because I am so scared to death to watch it. I'm going to end up just saying screw it and watching it. I know it's out on Blu-ray. I've just been waiting for it to keep lowering in price because I'm so nervous that movie sucks. But I want to see it. I do want to see it. I need to investigate if that show might be on HBO Max now, though. Since HBO Max carries so much DC, I should check. And yes, this is a DC character. So this is the first somewhat main DC character. He's been in a lot of animated movies. That's probably been, if you follow the DC universe and their animated Blu-ray and DVD movies, you've seen him in a couple of things like Justice League Dark, for example. Swamp Thing has popped up a few times there. Swamp Thing also is a somewhat key in the creation of Howard the Duck. That's all I'm saying. Y'all can look it up. I'm not going to go into that. I'm pretty sure nobody even wants to look it up, but I got to mention Howard the Duck, so I don't care. Swamp Thing deals with a scientist out in the bayou who's just working on a formula. He's the doctor's is played by Ray Weiss. Doctor's name is Alec Holland, and his competitor is Dr. Arcane, played by Louis Jordan. And one night, a group of very bad people show up and attack the lab, and they start killing people. He gets covered in chemicals. He's lit on fire. And as he's running away, he dives in the swamp. The chemicals combine with him, and he becomes Swamp Thing. And in the movie, he's figuring out his powers, which comic book wise, his powers are so ridiculous. I don't think people really realize how powerful Swamp Thing is. Swamp Thing literally, and this is no joke, he could kick Superman's ass. There's no joke on that. He could beat the living shit out of Superman. He's basically immortal. He's got no real weaknesses. He is unlimitedly strong. As long as Earth is around, he has power. No green kryptonite to weaken him. This guy is unlimited power. Now, in the movie, they didn't make him quite that strong. Plus, he's still trying to figure out his powers. He's got strength. The costume is horrible. I like the costume in The Return of Swamp Thing, and I like the costume in the show Swamp Thing. And by show, I mean there was a show in like the late 80s, early 90s, that Swamp Thing outfit. I have never seen the other show because I'm so scared to death. I'm going to have to break down and buy it. Who knows? Maybe I'll buy it right now. I did that before with Virtuosity. But that Swamp Thing, he's this mix of man and nature, and nature can get pretty violent. Swamp Thing kills. So this is another one of those heroes that does not have a problem killing people. So if that's a problem for you, now you know. But just the people he's killing are bad guys here, folks. So you shouldn't mind too much. And at times he's killing other monsters. So again, I don't think people should have too much of a problem with that. But hey, it's your world. I just live in it. But that's Swamp Thing. I like this. I love this character. I wish this character would get more of a bigger plug. It's a shame that this character hasn't gotten such a bigger plug. In fact, I just looked up the newer Swamp Thing show. I could get this thing right now for $25. Yeah. Oh, dear God. That's still a little much. It's still a little much because I'm so scared to death that this movie is bad, but it's the complete series. I can't do it quite yet. I can't do it yet. I'm going to wait for it to drop a little bit more, but that's Swamp Thing. As far as the cast, is there anybody else in this? Is there anybody in this original movie you would know? No, not really. But maybe you would know somebody in The Return of Swamp Thing. A very young Heather Locklear was in that movie. So Swamp Thing, character I wish would get a little more credit. Unfortunately, he had the show, but that was so bad they ended it before it was over. Which is why I'm so nervous about that show. But Swamp Thing, my number 5. Probably not going to get anything because of that damn show did so badly. And that's a shame because this is such a good character. And I wish more people would get exposed to the character. But like I said, number 5, Swamp Thing. Number 4, this is a movie and a character that has been mentioned before and has had 3 movies, has had a video game, got a comic book series, has action figures, and had a show that was supposed to be on TV that you can actually watch the pilot. Last I saw it, it was on YouTube, but it did not get picked up. This movie is from 1990, directed by Sam Raimi, stars Frances McDormand, Colin Firth, Larry Drake, and debuting in his first starring role, Liam Neeson, Darkman. Darkman, who is everyone and no one, everywhere, nowhere. Call him Darkman. Darkman follows a scientist by the name of Peyton Westlake, who's trying to create this liquid skin to help people, obviously, with like serious burns. And his girlfriend is played by Frances McDormand. Julie Hastings is working for this somewhat crooked character by the name of Louis Strack. He's just a jerk who has a mobster played by Larry Drake, Robert Durant, working for him. And there's this file that they need that she found. Well, they don't know where it is. They discover it's at her home. And so they go there to get it. Unfortunately, the home is where Peyton Westlake's lab is. So he and his lab assistant are working on their skin when these mobsters show up. And it is not a brilliant thing what happens. Peyton and his lab assistant get the crap beat out of them. They get brutalized, and the lab assistant is murdered. And Peyton gets badly burnt. And they leave him with this bomb thing that's about to blow up. It blows up while Frances McDormand's character is standing outside. It blows up. You see his body fly out. He's gone to a hospital. He's got bad burns all over his body. And I guess what bad burns do is they give you superhuman strength. Or what it did for him is when he goes insane, when he loses his mind, he loses his temper, his strength just quadruples. Now, the burns are so bad that they affected his nerves. So he doesn't actually feel pain anymore either. His face is completely burnt. His hands are completely burnt. He's just a burnt up thing. And he wants revenge for those who have ruined his life. And so he's using this liquid skin to do it, but he's still trying to be Westlake. He's still trying to get his life back. He wants Julie back. That's your plot. Now, it sounds stupid. You might think it's stupid. I happen to love this movie. I own the box set of this. So I have the original. The original movie I actually have twice because I have a box set of the 3 movies, and I bought this movie individually on Blu-ray with collector's edition. And like I said, Liam Neeson plays Darkman in the first one. The second and third one, Darkman is played by Arnold Vosloo. The name might seem familiar. That's because he was Imhotep in the first 2 Mummy movies. Darkman, again, this is another hero. He's killing people, folks. He is killing. So this isn't the throw him in jail and stuff. He kills people. Now, in the later sequels, he's still killing people. But there are moments he doesn't kill the bad guy, but there's not a lot of them. He's usually killing people. So that's your plot. That's Darkman. It sounds stupid. It is stupid. But again, I love this movie. I have heard time and time again that Sam wants to revisit this and do another movie of Darkman and a reboot. I would totally be there, depending on who you hire as Darkman. There are certain people I don't want to see anywhere near this role. So I am vehemently interested in a Darkman reboot, as long as we don't have a very bad actor in the role. So I would be there. Love this movie. Love this franchise. I do hope this comes back someday, but I strongly would love to. I recommend definitely watching Darkman. It's actually my favorite Sam Raimi movie. That's right. I like this over Spider-Man. And I love Spider-Man, but I love Darkman. Darkman is very good. It hurts me putting this at number 4, but that should tell you how I feel about the 3 movies above it, because I love Darkman so damn much. Number 4, 1990, Darkman. All right. Number 3. This is another character who has been mentioned numerous times on this show very recently with Guilty Pleasures. This movie is from 1994. This movie is directed by Russell McCary. I probably said the name wrong. Stars Alec Baldwin, John Lone, Penelope Ann Miller, Tim Curry, Peter Boyle, Ian McKellen, John Winters. It is The Shadow. The Shadow is based off of an old radio serial, also a small comic book series back in the day. I had never heard of The Shadow. Never heard of him. This movie was my introduction to the character, and I absolutely fell in love with this movie. It is such an underrated movie. I wish more and more. This is one of those movies I extremely wish people knew it existed. Alec Baldwin plays the Shadow. He's our main character. He plays Lamont Cranston. He's a man who understands darkness because Cranston was a soldier, disappeared in the war, and a war overseas, and he became this sick, twisted, murderous kind of gang type figure. And he understands evil. And this basically this kind of Shaolin monk, which they call the Toku, picks him to become the Shadow because he knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. And he trains him for years and sends him back to a layer of pure villainy, aka New York City. And the Shadow has got the power to control men's minds, and he can also hide himself by basically making himself invisible, leaving the one thing he can never truly hide, his shadow, hence called the Shadow. The enemy in this movie is Shiwan Khan, played by John Lone. Khan, I should tell you exactly the ancestry. Yep, he's an ancestor of Genghis Khan. And he also has the same powers. He was also taught by the Toku. So there's your plot. Penelope Ann Miller is in this movie. I mentioned her. She plays Margot Lane. By the way, Penelope Ann Miller, beautiful woman right there. Peter Boyle plays Mo Shrivnitz, who's a cab driver, drives the Shadow around. And Ian McKellen plays Reinhardt Lane, who's Margot Lane's father. Tim Curry's brilliant in this movie as well. He's always good in whatever he does. Like I said, I had never heard of this character, but once I saw this movie, I fell in love with the character. And then I discovered it was a Republic serial, and I went on eBay and bought a cassette set of radio episodes. It was only like 6 cassettes. Listened to it, loved it, then bought another set. It was like, I think, 10 cassettes. And then I bought a huge one that had like 25. And then I bought another one that was CDs. And then I bought a bunch of downloads. I have easily over 150 episodes of The Shadow, easily. And I listen to them still. Love this movie. Love the Republic, the old shows. This had some Republic serials as well. Might interest you to know that the first person who voiced the Shadow, as far as playing Lamont Cranston, the Shadow, that is in this movie, the first person to voice him for that radio show, Orson Welles. So this is a huge character. So I love the Shadow. I would love them to remake the Shadow and do a movie now, because the effects that they could do with the Shadow now would be amazing. And the effects in this movie are very good. They're not bad. They're very good effects. I just think they would be even better nowadays. Will we ever see a Shadow movie? Probably not. I think they could do a Shadow TV show. Definitely probably won't see that, unfortunately. But I love this movie. Alec Baldwin, I think, did great in this. If I ever bumped into Alec Baldwin, who's unfortunately in the news for something, I would tell him right away, I know you've done a lot of great movies, and there's people who mention a lot of movies when they think of you. But when I think of you, I'm sorry, I think of The Shadow. I love that movie. It's my favorite Alec Baldwin movie. Yes, over the hunt for Red October. I love The Shadow. I love this movie. That's why it made it on my guilty pleasures list. Number 3, The Shadow. And remember, the Shadow knows. All right, number 2, the runner-up, the one that just barely didn't quite make it to number 1. And this was tough. The top 2 were really tough, but I had to split it by a hair, just a small, minor hair. Does this become number 2? Another old hero from Republic serials, comics, and had only one movie. There was later a sci-fi TV show that they tried to do, didn't quite make it, but this one movie, which is campy as all can be, became a secret hit, and it became a cult classic adored by many. And if they ever made a sequel, it would probably fail because this movie has become so damn popular. It's from 1980, directed by Mike Hodges, stars Sam J. Jones, Melody Anderson, Max von Sydow, T'Pol, Timothy Dalton returning again. It is Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon stars Sam J. Jones playing the title character, Flash Gordon, who's this football player who is on a plane with Melody Anderson's character, Dale Arden, when their plane crashes into this lab of T'Pol's character, Dr. Hans Zarkov, who believes Earth is being destroyed because there's a lot of bad weather, and he has a rocket that's going to take them to where it's coming from. And it takes them to a whole nother universe where Emperor Ming rules, and that's where Max von Sydow, I say that name wrong all the time, sorry. He plays Emperor Ming. He is the big baddie. There's your plot. The effects are laughable. The sound effects are laughable. The costumes at times are extremely laughable. Everything about this movie is bad, but it is such a cult classic. I love this. I have this movie on VHS. I had it on DVD until it got damaged, and that one was on my fault. I remember how I damaged it, and it pissed me off. But I would eventually buy it again, special edition on Blu-ray. Flash Gordon, every aspect of this movie reeks. It should be one of the shittiest movies ever made. But how many people absolutely adore this movie? It is the center point of the movie Ted. They love Flash Gordon. In fact, Sam Jones is in that movie. There's countless documentaries about this movie. There was one I watched on Hulu, brilliant documentary talking about Flash Gordon. It's hard to imagine that this movie truly didn't make it. It really is a piece of shit, but my God, it's so brilliant. And of course, the soundtrack, the main song that starts the whole movie, Queen. I mean, that added right there to it. This movie being epic is you have one of the most epic bands ever, Queen, doing the soundtrack. That sold it right there. Timothy Dalton plays Prince Barin. I mean, this movie, oh my God, this movie is so bad, but my God, I love this movie. Flash Gordon is such an underground hit. There's very few people I've met who don't like Flash Gordon. I know there are people out there who don't like this movie, but there's not as many of them as you would think. In fact, this might be the biggest hit on this list in some respects, because it came out of nowhere to become a hit. This movie should have been a flop, but it wasn't. It became a hit, a big hit, an underground hit. And in the years, this movie's only gotten bigger and better to its fan base. And that's credit. I mean, sometimes a movie just captures people at the right time. And this movie clearly got people at the right time, came out at the right time, made by the right people, had the right eyes on it to be a hit. Because I remember when they tried to do this many years later, they did this TV show on Sci-Fi. It bombed badly. And it was supposed to be this huge show. It did not succeed. It failed. Somehow this movie continues to gain strength, keeps going strong. It's proof that the public knows what they like. And you don't have to, sometimes you just don't have to try as hard. And they will determine if a movie's good or not. Not you, not the actors, not the studio, not the writers. Those people out there sitting in the seats, those people buying those tickets, or nowadays, those people just going over to Disney or HBO Max. But they will determine whether your movie is good, not you. So Flash Gordon, The hit that probably shouldn't have been a hit, but dear God, I love it. And just barely didn't make it as number one. Just barely. Number two, runner up, Flash Gordon. So before I get to numero uno on this, let's do a rundown of what got us here. Number 10, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Number 9, The Phantom. Number 8, The Toxic Avenger. Number 7, The Rocketeer. Number 6, The Guyver. 5 is Swamp Thing. 4 is Darkman. 3 is The Shadow. And I just said our runner-up, number 2, Flash Gordon. Number 1. Number 1 has had many movies made. It's had, including spoofs, several TV shows, several. A famous TV show, the most famous TV show, was on Disney. Countless movies, including one starring Antonio Banderas. Sorry, 2 that starred Antonio Banderas. There's been cartoon shows, an entire franchise. Supposedly there was going to be a movie about this. I even remember seeing a trailer for this. But it's possible it might have been fake, but it looks so good, I can't believe it was fake. But the movie I'm talking about does not star Antonio Banderas, is not a spoof starring George Hamilton. This is a movie from 1940. 1940, the oldest movie on here. But I do own this movie. I've had this movie on VHS, DVD, and I have this on Blu-ray. I've said it before. If I cover all 3, that tells you I love it. Zorro. The Mark of Zorro, to be exact. This stars Tyrone Power, Basil Rathbone. Classic Hollywood actors. This movie is amazing. This movie's been remade, or not remade, but redone in color. I own it, but I own it in black and white. It doesn't need to be in color. Sometimes it's just fine to leave it the way it is. And I love this movie in its original black and white. Now, this movie takes place long ago when California was not a part of the United States. It was a Spanish colony, and it takes place in Los Angeles before it was America, when it was a Spanish colony. This young Spanish aristocrat named Don Diego de la Vega is returned home to discover that his homeland, that the people are being ruled by a tyrannical captain and an alcalde. Think of an alcalde basically as the head man of the town, like a mayor, kind of type of thing. Think of it in those kind of senses. And secretly, he has been trained in science and trained in how to fight and swords play. And he creates the character Zorro. And he wreaks havoc. He's a champion of the people. And of course, the Basil Rathbone's character and the alcalde, they all want him dead. They all want to find him, but he's a masked man. They don't know who it is, but he's a champion of the people. Zorro is an inspiration that created Batman. Same kind of character. Don Diego de la Vega, for the time, rich. Batman, rich. Wears a mask, champion of the people. Batman wears a mask, champion of the people, even though he's, not trying to be the nicest guy that you would invite to dinner. But Tyrone Power was such a great choice to play Zorro. The thing about Zorro is they have found the right actors to do it. Tyrone Power, perfect. Antonio Banderas, perfect. By the way, those 2 Antonio Banderas Zorro movies also starred Catherine Zeta-Jones. Again, Zorro, such a classic. The Disney show sticks out to me for so many reasons. Of course, that was with Guy Williams. Of course, I still remember that song in my head. I will never forget that song. Out of the night, when the full moon is bright, comes the horseman known as Zorro. This bold renegade carves a Z with his blade, a Z that stands for Zorro. I will never forget that song. So Zorro, I love this. This is a character that definitely a lot of people don't think of Zorro, and it's a shame. This is a character that can easily be brought back. I've seen this character with TV on Telemundo. I've seen this character who's had recent shows, recent movies. But here in the States, the last one we had was The Legend of Zorro, which was the second Antonio Banderas Zorro movie, and it was not good. It was not good. The Mask of Zorro, which is what the first Antonio Banderas movie is, with Anthony Hopkins. That one is far better than The Legend of Zorro. But this one, The Mark of Zorro, the classic movie with Tyrone Power, a legendary actor. Some of those movies I love. For example, I have Errol Flynn's Adventures of Robin Hood. That's actually my favorite Robin Hood movie, is that old classic with Errol Flynn. Also, Basil Rathbone is actually in that movie too. So, Zorro, an absolute classic and a hero that definitely does not get a lot of plug. And that's a shame, because he rides that. He's all dressed in black. He's a creature of the night. He's got that big black horse, Tornado. The name transfers a lot. There was a show that was on, I want to say, Family Channel of Zorro. It was Duncan Regard who played Zorro. That show was brilliant. I loved that show. So Zorro is one of the few times that, to me, they've gotten it right way more times than they've ever gotten it wrong. I mean, the worst Zorro ever looked was the George Hamilton movie, Zorro the Gay Blade. That's the name of the movie. I don't want to hear anything about me saying anything mean. That is what the movie is called. It's a spoof in which Don Diego de la Vega is twins, one straight, one flamboyantly gay. It's just bad. The movie's just terrible. It's just terrible. So don't watch that, but definitely I would recommend watching the Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas. I guess you can watch The Legend of Zorro with Antonio Banderas, but the reason Zorro is number one on this countdown is from The Mark of Zorro, which is starring Tyrone Power. There's an old Zorro movie that's a silent picture. I mean, most people don't think of these movies. It's an old silent picture by done. I'm trying to remember the actor's name, but it was done by an actor who was Jackie Chan of the time, who did all his own stunts. A very athletic person. I'm looking up the movie right now because I want to show this movie its proper respect, because I've actually seen it. It's actually also a very good movie. It's not Zorro the Gay Blade. Oh, where is this movie? Douglas Fairbanks. That's his name. I just remembered it. I still haven't found the movie, but it was Douglas Fairbanks who played it. There it is. It was also called The Mark of Zorro from 1920. He would also come back and play the role again in Don Q, Son of Zorro. He did that role 5 years later. Douglas Fairbanks was a stud of his time. Jackie Chan, he did all his own stunts, and he was tremendously athletic. So I would definitely recommend watching The Mark of Zorro from 1920, starring Douglas Fairbanks. Don Q, Son of Zorro, also Douglas Fairbanks. Very good movie. But again, this movie, what movie that puts it on is number one on here by a hair over Flash Gordon. The Mark of Zorro from 1940, starring Tyrone Power. Number one, Zorro, The Mark of Zorro. Whew. That's it. That's the countdown. What do you think? Are there any superhero movies that I forgot that you like that should be on here? Do you have any show ideas? Do you want to comment on a previous episode? Do you have any critiques of my show for it to be better? Do you just want to talk to me? Maybe you want to come on the show. Whatever. There are plenty of ways that you can get a hold of me. You can send me an email. Just send it to thecountdown2020@gmail.com. You can search on Facebook. Just search at the Countdown 2020 Podcast 1. I'm on Twitter. Just search at the Countdown PO1. I'm on Instagram. Just search the Countdown 20. Instagram has been very good to me. A lot of people coming on there and starting to message, comment. I'm getting more followers on there. Instagram's been very good. You can listen to the show on Spotify. All the episodes are there. Just search The Countdown 2020. I'm on Amazon Audible. Just search The Countdown Podcast. I'm on iHEART Radio. Search The Countdown Podcast. All the episodes are released through Podbean, so you can go over to Podbean. Just search The Countdown Podcast. If you want to just get to the website for the through Podbean for the episode archives, just go to thecountdown2020.podbean.com. And of course, I'm on YouTube. Just go over to YouTube and search The Countdown with MJ Book. And you can go on there and you can listen to the audio files. You can watch episodes on video. Plus, that's where the mini count is. Mini count is exclusive to YouTube. You can only do it there and only see it there. I said it before, all episodes are available through podbean.com. Please like, listen, follow, watch, subscribe. And not much left for me to go. Like I said, coming up as far as future episodes, hope to be doing the next episode. Should be, unless something happens in between, War will be having a guest coming back into the countdown. Can't wait to have him come back in. It's going to if everything works out, Warren Marlowe from Buzzing with Marlowe is going to come back in, and we're going to do another countdown. Can't wait to have that guy back in. We have great conversations. And of course, after that, my best and worst of 2021, just like I did last year. Those are 2 episodes right there each. And the march to 100 is continuing. I'm going to be with this month, I will get to a total of 70 episodes. And this season, when I do one of those 2021 reviews, I will officially had more episodes this season than last season. So want to take this time to thank all those listeners and viewers, whether you listen to it once, twice, few times, or every episode. I want to thank you, whether you're just listening, whether you're watching, whether you're doing both. Thank you immensely. Throw out the plug to listen to 3GW, Third Generation Wrestling. If you're a professional wrestling fan, please listen to that show, hosted by the real Big E Eric and the Ambassador Rob. I'm a contributor onto the show. Also, the good brother Blake and the Doctor of Wordonomics himself. One of the more recent episodes was they did a review of the Dennis Rodman, Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Double Team. I'm in the background. I was just kind of doing some audio support, but Eric involves me a little bit. Eric did a trailer or movie review of True Crime, I believe it's called, with Wesley Snipes, and in that episode, history making, because first female guest on the show. So props there. But please listen to Third Generation Wrestling. Kevin Hart, that was his name. I couldn't think of his damn name. But please listen to Third Generation Wrestling, Buzzing with Marlowe. Do want to say just real quick, just throwing everything out here at the end. Please want to throw a shout out and a thank you to incomtech.com. Kevin McLeod for the royalty-free music, Ice Flow, that you hear at the beginning and ends of the episodes. And that is all I got. And I will catch you all again on the next episode of The Countdown. Have a nice day or evening, whatever time it is. Bye-bye.